All right, good evening, everyone. Sorry for the little late start, little technical difficulty, but we got a great group here today. So, welcome to Recovery Unplugged Live. I'm John Spalding from June NBC Live. I'm going to kick it off to Amy to definitely start this show and make sure that we get off on the right foot because this is our second of three episodes where we are featuring submissions and people that are going to be involved with the Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival. So, how are you, Amy?
I'm doing great. I got some really great news. A big music publication interviewed the young woman who sang the end credit song "Here with Me" on Letters to Daniel,
Mm-hmm.
and they used Letters to Daniel to promote the song. So we got a mention in the article, and she had the song itself has received 129 million streams.
Oh,
Nice. Very nice.
So
Good.
I'm really happy for her and me and her. That's why whenever they tagged us on Facebook for licensing, I thought they're using us to promote the damn song. Why are they going to tag the movie? And it's my movie, and they said we can use it.
Oh, yeah.
But that,
What's her name?
Her name is Stephanie Ray, and she is signed with Warner Music Brazil. The song got her signed with Warner Music Brazil.
There you go. Cool stuff. And Dell's here.
Yay!
How are you,
Heck,
Dell? Did you know that you're part of our soft open for tonight's show?
I didn't know that, but thank
So,
you very much for making that happen. Anytime I can be seen, heard, or recognized without the police involved, I am thrilled to my wits. So thank you very much for that.
Any updates from you as far as the festival is concerned? I heard there's some dates.
We've been getting a lot
some
of
stuff.
questions from people about action on film. Is it going to happen? Well, I'll tell you something. It's very strange. Sundance is canceled. Cannes has canceled. Telluride is canceled. All the big shows have canceled. And we didn't. We said, let's wait it out. Let's see what happens. Let's stick our head to the ground and see what's coming. We are working with a brand new set of theaters, and they are fantastic here in Vegas, brand new theaters with great screens. And they've been in contact with us constantly over the last few months, and we're trying to figure it out. So what we decided to do was we're going to do a hybrid festival this year. Half the festival will be online, half will be live because everyone wants a live event. And I truly believe that if, like Kevin Costner said or was told, if you build it, they will come. Because so many shows have canceled, the mere fact that we're going to be available and around for people to have a place to come for the summer just to showcase their film and be seen and to be loved and to be acknowledged and to be, why would someone, a writer or a filmmaker who made a film, get screwed out of a whole year of their career? It just makes, I think it's incumbent upon us to do something. And so while the other shows are canceling and not refunding money and keeping fees and all that stuff, we don't do that. It makes me feel bad. So we're going to do our show. Now, the only thing that would stop us is if the governor or the mayor closed the city, or of course of the federal government. But right now, Las Vegas is opened up. All the restaurants and bars are reopened. On the 4th, all the casinos reopen. And if the numbers are strong from the other states and countries that are dealing with this horrible crisis, there's a really, really good chance that we're going to happen too. And the theaters being very supportive. All the festivals that are involved in the Mega Fest are great. And there's one other thing you might want to know about. It's called No Risk Fee Fest. No Risk Fee Fest. That means that you don't submit your film and give us money. Here's what you do. You send us your film, your script, your short, your trailer, whatever you want us to see. We'll watch it first or read it first. If we don't think we can work with it, we won't take your money. If we think we can put it in the show and use it and promote it, then we'll take it. Then you can pay your fees. But the model has been changed, and we want to be the people at the top of that. You cannot continually take from filmmakers and writers and give nothing back. And as a filmmaker and a writer, I appreciate this opportunity to do it this way as well. So No Risk Fee Fest. And that's all the news that's fit to print. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, man. All right, Amy.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Well, one thing I just want to mention, I submitted Letters to Daniel to the Telly Awards in the social issues category. So their winners are going to be announced this Wednesday. I'm nervous, because everybody from the independent filmmaker to the studios submit to that. So, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I
Right
put us
on.
in the category I thought we would do best in.
Okay.
So, and now I'd like to introduce the two artists who are with us. Uh, One is David Foster. He is an animator that I met at ICFF in 2018. He's very talented. And Steve Oldfield, who is the director of many things, but of the film at Conquering Disabilities with Film is called Lines of Sight. And I first saw it at the 2016 Indie Gathering, where he not only won his category, but he won the Viewer's Choice Award.
Right on.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
So I'm going to start with David, then I'll go to you, Steve, and then I'll do a round robin. And Del, if you have any questions during this time, just feel free to jump in.
I have
David,
nothing to say.
You are a faith-based animator. Your short film,
Myself? Yeah.
Your short film, Hypothermia, My Kayak Prayer, is among the selected movies chosen to screen with Conquering Disabilities with Film. What is it about, and what inspired you to make it?
Well, it's a true story that it was through my head. And when I kind of was looking for animation work and I didn't have enough experience, so I thought, forget it, I'll do my own film. And right at the top of the list was the night I paddled down the Humber and it froze over that night. And it was an amazing experience, and I wanted to share it with people. And then it bothered me that it was somewhat suicidal, the subject matter. So I struggled for quite a while, like, how do I present this? And I thought it wasn't a negative experience for me. So I'm justified in presenting it. It was a great experience, paddling down the river the night it froze. So yeah, so then the mental health thing, like, it was about 10 years later I was diagnosed after that. So the mental health thing, I think there's reality to it in that, but you can't focus on the problem. You have to focus on through the problem. And I thought this subject matter was great for that too. So that's a bit of a start there.
Okay. When people think of animation, they generally think of companies like Pixar or Disney, who are giants in the field and have virtual armies working on their films. How does your work differ from theirs, and how does Hypothermia fit in with your body of work as a whole?
Fitting in with my body of work as a whole, it was the first film that it was pretty much the first film that I completed. It was 700 hours of work, so it was like a artistic marathon to get it done. I started in 99 and I finished it in 2008, so like almost 10 years. And just like it just I was told to get a grant. And I thought, no, when the drawings are done, I'll get a grant for the cost of the filming. And the drawings weren't getting done. So, but then I went and got 2 grants, and the clock was ticking. It had to get done. So, really, it's the start of like rolling a kayak when you're going to be upset, like capsize. You push it all the way through. So, in that sense, it's a rebirth. And since Hypothermia, death and rebirth has kind of been a theme in my following projects. So that's how Hypothermia fits in. It's like my firsthand personal experience, emphasizing death and rebirth with, like, I didn't capsize when I paddled. So
Yeah, that's good.
And as far as it being faith-based, the stuff I'm doing now, He's Destroyed Christ, I directed at both the religious audience and the secular audience. I think the secular audience has plenty of merit. They're down to earth, they're practical, all that kind of stuff. The religious audience, they have the touchstone, the key, but they don't. It gets lost. It gets lost in the shuffle. So all my stuff is directed at both the secular audience and the religious audience. The problem is I don't have religious authority, so the religious audience won't touch it. And I'm talking about faith-based stuff, belief, and religious stuff to people that have already rejected that by being secular. So I'm trying to combine the two ends of the dichotomy, but I end up excluding both ends of the dichotomy. So we'll see what happens.
Well, you definitely have a home for it at Conquering Disabilities with Film, and there would be a play. I got a feeling Dell would love to see it.
Oh, you got me excited now.
Yeah, it was great. I can find fault with it, as any creator can. You know, when you finish it, it's like, oh well, I tried, I did my best. You know, and then but over the years, it's like I love it. Like I wouldn't change anything really.
As with a lot of filmmakers and screenwriters who find Conquering Disabilities with Film, you have challenges unique to you, which you deal with. How do they both hinder and help with your creative process?
My diagnosis, like I don't mind saying, I was diagnosed schizoaffective, and then I was diagnosed 10 years later manic depressive. Well, when you're off your medications, you're going to be manic because your medications primarily sedate you. So hypothermia got finished in 2008, and I didn't have this overwhelming burden hanging over my head. So my life just went at rocket speed. And for the next year, so much changed, so much happened. I went off my medication, and I was working 2 jobs, sleeping only every other night. And one was a physical job. The other one was in a kitchen. So it just, the mental illness, if it's mania, wow, I can get stuff done. Like I can really get stuff done, but it has to be harnessed. So, I won't give any names, but, the employer that I had for the longest time, still have actually, he says, so what happens if you don't take your medication? I said, I talk a lot and people get upset or discouraged or pissed off or frustrated with me and that. He goes, oh, so you're like me. I go, well, yeah. You know, he says, so how come David, take medication and he doesn't? How come I'm in the mental health care system and he doesn't? It's because he's doing well. He has a company, he has a wife, he has kids. You know, he's harnessed his mania. Me, high school was kind of a waste of time, and so I want to get a trade, but then that got stifled. I ended up going to university, but that was dumb, and so it took me 20 years to harness my energy. And if I didn't have animation hanging over my head, then I'd be just like bouncing off the walls and everything. But when it comes down to it, if I can manage my time to work on animation, man, I can produce. Same thing with any job. So
yeah, for me, there's like 2 different kinds of mania. One is called euphoric mania, the other is dysphoric, and dysphoric mania is what it used to be referred to as mixed episodes, where you have the restlessness of the energy of the mania, but you have the self-loathing and depression of the depressive episode, and it's truly a miserable place to be. And
yeah,
through a combination, for me, everybody, it looks different on everybody, and everybody's recovery journey is their own. For me, with a combination of medication, therapy, supportive friends and family, and also having writing and doing that output, you know, like you said, there's an outlet for it.
or a harnessing of the energy.
Yeah, right. there's that outlet, there's that harnessing, and as long as I'm doing that, with those combination of things, I'm generally in a good place. What is your greatest hope for hypothermia?
Oh, well, this is where I get lumped in with mental illness. Hypothermia, it's not directly religious, other than the word prayer in the title. I want it to be a foundation to build the He's Destroyed Christ episodes on. I did a lot of backstory in He's Destroyed Christ, and the one that I just recently completed, it's no longer backstory. But hypothermia stands as it looks realistic, although it's drawn. It looks
very well done.
Thank you. I did my best. It's realistic drawn. It's not overtly religious. It shows that I can get the work done and be down to earth. Whereas the subsequent episodes or project, it's just like, whoa, what was that? Like, how does it fit? You were saying about animation with Pixar and Disney and all that, right?
Right.
Disney, not so bad, but I like Shrek and all that. I just, when you tell people you do animation, they think, oh, like SpongeBob or something like that. They don't expect it to be so seriously religious. And then when they realize it's seriously religious, they don't expect it to be fun. It's like they forget it's a cartoon. Like it's just fun. Like that's why the word joy gets thrown around, right?
Right.
So I really hope hypothermia is a strong foundation that I can like leap off of with He's Destroyed Christ and not have everybody like let go, So there's the mental illness there too, but like not to get too religious on your show or anything, but basically one of the posts I did was how crazy is crazy? Like a God incarnate for love of the world that hates him, dies an excruciating death and then gets resurrected. Like right there, that's just nuts. Right? So like I think I'm well within those bounds, but like I just hope hypothermia is the sane. It looks sane, it looks normal, although when you get into it, it pushes boundaries, so that from there people will take the leap to the next episode or projects and that. So
okay. And finally, what is up next for you creatively?
Matthew's Sixth Sense. He's Destroyed Christ, Matthew's Sixth Sense. So I was hoping work would slow down, like my employment would slow down because of COVID. But I did finish Matthew's 5:9, the 6th episode this past winter. And that's in ICFF.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. And I just want to start with hypothermia for Conquering Disabilities with film. I have every intention to send the other ones down the pipe. I just don't want to put them all in the same
great.
year.
I look forward to seeing them. Okay,
yeah,
so that's
sorry. So Matthew's 5:9 is done. That's the 6th episode actually. So Matthew's Sixth Sense, I know I can get it done in the 4 months that I'm off my employment, seasonal employment. So not because I keep all my data and records and everything. So I wanted to finish that by April 2021. And there's like 28 chapters in the Gospel of Matthew. So like, I hope I live that
long. Okay, well, that's my last question for David. Dale, do you have any questions for
the guy amazed me. I mean, I'm on his website and you've been seeing me over here typing and stuff. I'm looking up the movie. I'm looking him up. I'm on his Google site, Hypothermia, My Kayak Prayer, the official nomination 2019 video. Absolutely magnificent story. And I don't think there's anything
wrong.
Put
a lot of work in it. I appreciate you saying
see
that.
it, man. Well, I used to be an animator for about 2 minutes. And I worked with a lot
Yeah.
I worked with a lot of great animators, Phil Mendez from Disney and Vincenzo Trippetti from Klasky Chupo. We hung out for decades, literally. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for animators because it is a lonely, lonely, lonely lover. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. And to make it religious and to follow. Wow, I love it. I can't wait to
It's
see
fun
it.
first, religious second.
Well, you know what? I'll take that second, and I'll make sure that Amy gets a fee waiver so you don't pay any fees to submit it to us. Okay, I can't wait to see it.
Oh, sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
You got it, baby. Great
See,
stuff.
Dell comes
Thank
on
you
and he
very
just
much.
makes
And
it
this is
rain.
Sorry.
Dell comes on and he just makes it rain. We need to
Yeah,
have him on
that's
more
that's the impression I get from Amy.
Well, you know, it's funny. If you find enough people like that and you hang around them, right,
Yeah.
it's always raining good stuff. And that's why I've been
Right
very,
on.
very careful with how I do things, because I've got people at the top of the top of the top and people at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, and they're all equal to me. And I just hope that they see me the way I see them, which is fantastic. And just hearing your story and knowing what you're talking about, you touched me already. So I want to make sure that I
Thank you
give
very much.
other people
I
the opportunity to
appreciate
be
that.
touched by you and with regards to your message and your work and your dedication to what you're doing. So thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be quiet now.
And also, David Gordon Foster also says, "Hey, David, I managed to catch your interview live on my way back from Ellis. Great stuff."
Oh, wow. Awesome. I'll have to talk to him. That's my
Okay.
brother.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, so hi, Steve. I believe we met at the 2016 Indie Gathering where I first saw your documentary, Lines of Sight.
That's
You won
right.
the Viewer's Choice Award, and even the subject of your documentary was present. Could you tell us what Lines of Sight is about and what inspired it?
Lines of Sight is a documentary that tells the story of an American artist named Jim Hall. Jim was someone through his whole life who battled depression, and he turned to art as a way to help him heal. Unfortunately, he also turned to alcohol and drugs for many years of his life, and it was finally art that helped him to overcome addiction in many ways. Lines of Sight is specifically about a kind of painting that Jim turned to when he faced one of the biggest crises of his life. If you've heard of the shingles virus, Jim ended up getting the shingles virus in his eyes. And he woke up one day, the pain of shingles was finally leaving. Jim wouldn't take any pain medication because of his addiction. So he toughed it out for several weeks dealing with shingles. The day that the pain was over, he opened his eyes and he saw everything in vertical lines. And he kept doing this. He kept squinting and he kept opening. Sure enough, the lines were there. The lines were there for several weeks, even turned into several months. He went to vision experts. He went to all kinds of doctors, and they said, this is an extremely rare condition. We don't know what causes it. You may have these lines for the rest of your life. If you're old enough to remember an old television that had like a test pattern and it used to have those lines on the TV, that's kind of what it looked like. And after about 3 months of not knowing if this was going to be a permanent condition in his reality, Jim said, well, I'm going to start painting the lines. So you've heard of pointillism. This is linealism. All the paintings are done in vertical lines. It took him more than a year to do the first painting, and he actually finished it on September 11th, 2001. He couldn't watch any more of the news. He said, I'm going to focus and finish this painting. And after that, he did about one every month and a half for the rest of his life. And he called the style linealism. So we called the documentary Lines of Sight. And I just kind of met Jim through a crazy way. We had a mutual friend, and I went in his house and I saw these paintings and I said, this is amazing. And I was just finishing another documentary, and I knew I had my next story to tell. And the first day we sat Jim down for 5 hours, and I went in totally cold. All I knew was that he had something wrong with his eyes, and he created this style. The story that he told about overcoming addiction, overcoming depression, overcoming the vision problem, and creating a new artwork and a new style for the ages, really, was so inspiring. And it took about a year to get the documentary together. We thought for sure we would get into Sundance and a lot of big festivals. And as you all know, sometimes that doesn't happen. Jim's story, I think, was a little too sweet maybe for them. But Indie Gathering saw it, and we got to bring Jim with us. because he grew up in Sharonville, Ohio. Well, down in Kentucky, but he lived in Sharonville, Ohio. So we just had a 3-hour drive to Indie Gathering. And for him to see people applaud the film and give him a standing ovation, he said to me it was one of the highlights of his life.
He was
And
such a sweet man. I got to meet him there, and you all actually had a couple of his paintings up
yes,
on easels for everybody to see, and it's just amazing. You could take a magnifying glass and see the detail. You don't like it's like kind of like an impressionist painting. You don't see all the lines, but when
right.
you take the magnifying glass, you see what painstaking detail that really is.
Totally. It truly is overcoming a disability, not just from his vision, which, by the way, for the record, finally healed and came back to normal, but he still ended up painting in that style. But the other thing is overcoming alcoholism. And at our
Yes.
first screening, our world premiere, this really cool guy from France who happened to be at Indie Gathering came up to Jim, gave him a bear hug and with tears in his eyes. And he said, I'm 10 years sober today, and your story makes me want to go another 10 years.
Wow.
And that was the proudest moment for Jim, not talking about, look at the artwork I created, but look at how this movie and my sharing that story helps someone else and inspire them.
Yeah. Okay. How does this film fit in with your body of work as a whole?
That's interesting. I will tell you, I actually started in TV news and did little 2-minute stories for about 20 years of my life. I was a syndicated entertainment reporter and film critic, and I covered Sundance in Toronto for more than a dozen years. And that was really my film school, interviewing all those documentarians. So this project was real. It was a passion project. I had to do it. I approached it much like a TV news producer would. I came up with little segments that were anywhere from 2 to 6 minutes, and I edited each of those separately and then put the whole thing together. Our first cut was an hour and a half, and we thought, you know what, let's get it down to an hour because it's played on some PBS stations. They like it to be more like 58 minutes. So we made the hard decision to cut it down. But, you know, it's probably the favorite project I'll ever work on in my life because I got to see how it affected Jim and how it's affected audiences. He had actually stopped painting linealism when I first met him. His wife had died. He was very depressed again. And I said, Jim, you have to start painting linealism again. I need some B-roll. I need some shots of you painting. And some of the linealisms he created after we started shooting, I think are some of the best. And he painted right up until he died in 2017.
He's such a nice man. I just remember that. What drew you to Conquering Disabilities with film, and what do you hope to accomplish there?
I'm excited for audience members to see the movie. I really give you guys credit as a festival for not saying this film has to be less than a year old or you're ineligible. This film is going on 4 years old at this point, but it's still such a relevant story. And so I'm thrilled to have an audience of people. And the cool thing about Vegas is people come from all over, right?
Right.
So I just want people to learn about Jim Hall. Before he died, he gave me 10 of his linealism paintings. And I have a background in public history, also creating museum exhibits. So we formed a 501c3 nonprofit called Linealism Revealed. We have a traveling art exhibit. Since he died, I've been able to buy some additional paintings. So the collection is up to about 20 paintings. And our goal is maybe somebody will be there at the screening and say, I would like to bring Jim Hall's story to my town. And, you know, hopefully they'll get in touch with me. And we would love to have this travel all over the world, telling this story of linealism and overcoming disabilities.
Well, I can tell you now, I bet Dell would love that film.
Hey, wait a minute. I just heard a story that really touched me. It's about this guy who does linealism. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to have Amy or Teresa send you a questionnaire. I'd love to feature you and his work in our new magazine, the next month's magazine.
Oh, great.
That would be great.
Love
We get
to.
a lot of people reading it. It's an online magazine, but it's really, really, really phenomenal. You can see it
Awesome.
if you go to the AOF website at aoffest.com. You can click on the front page for the magazine, and you'll be able to see what it looks like. I think we could really do a great job in getting people to see his artwork.
Oh, we
seeing it.
appreciate that.
I'll make sure they send out the questionnaire tonight, so you'll have it for next month's issue or the next issue. Wow, that's great. I'm looking at the page right now. I love what I'm seeing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we have two websites. We have
love it.
linesofsightdocumentary.com and then linealismrevealed.org.
I'm looking at
that's
lineofsightdocumentary.weebly.com.
Yeah,
Look at me go.
we did this whole thing on a shoestring budget.
It looks great.
And yeah, I used Weebly. You gotta love it, right? I shot it. I edited it. I did the narration. I made my own website.
What's wrong with that?
There you go.
What's wrong with that? My God, you guys are amazing. Both of you. Love it.
Okay. You kind of touched on this. What is your ultimate hope for Lines of Sight?
Well, it's been really interesting. And for the filmmakers out there, I will tell you what I have learned in this crazy process of submitting on first Without a Box and now Film Freeway. You want to go to the big prestige festivals that everybody sends to, right? You have to find your niche or whatever, however you would pronounce it. You have to find the festivals that are going to appreciate and celebrate your work. And that's why we're so thrilled to be in your festival. Last year, we were at a festival in Calgary, Canada called the Third Action Film Festival. And I highly recommend if you've been accepted to this wonderful festival in Vegas, you should think about them. They focus on senior citizens who are doing great things in the third act of their lives and overcoming issues. And Jim was a huge hit in that festival. And I'm doing one of these calls like this tomorrow that'll be all over Canada because this is the time of their festival. And so my goal is, that we travel this exhibit, we tell Jim's story. I received a small grant to create lesson plans so we can actually, like if a teacher were going to go take her class to see Lines of Sight and to go see the exhibit and the paintings in person, we have a week-long lesson plan that can go with that. So my goal ultimately isn't about the film, it's about Jim Hall and linealism. I would like people to be able to Wikipedia or Google linealism and stuff comes up just like pointillism or expressionism or cubism, right? So I think his story is that powerful and I think his art is that good. And I'm just trying to beat the drum as much as I can.
Wow. That is fantastic. That is amazing. Wow.
What is up next for you creatively?
Well, it's pretty funny and the world is pretty ironic. I jumped on Jim's story because I had a chance meeting with him. And at some point, I'll tell you how we met because it's pretty funny, but it's too long to go into here. Coincidentally, about a year and a half ago, I did some contract work for a little school that you may have heard of. It may get in your brain, Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky.
My God, yeah.
I did not like Covington Catholic because I went to Covington Latin, which was the rival school. But I walked out of that school after shooting a video for them and I said, these kids are really sharp. The principal is great. They've got a great mission. I am so impressed with Covington Catholic. I was in the middle of a documentary on another artist documentary, an artist who created amazing work for Auschwitz. And I went to Auschwitz and I had all this video and I was sitting on all this stuff. And then a little thing happened that became a viral video where a boy from Covington Catholic was wearing a Make America Great hat in Washington, D.C. And he bumped up against, well, he didn't really bump into him, but he stood there against a Native American guy beating a drum. It was the biggest story in the world, January 19th, 2019. And I sat there and I called my producer and I said, I own all this footage inside the school that no one is going to be able to get now. I have a lot of contacts. I have a teacher who's telling me what really happened. And we started a documentary called Rush to Judgment that very same day that all broke, January 19th. It took me a year and a half to work on that. I finally got an interview with that boy in the mega hat. His name is Nicholas Sandman. We were the only ones to get him. We found out about an African-American kid who was also there, who was abused by some adult protesters. His story has never been told anywhere. And I just dropped everything and did that totally as a labor of love, because I felt so strongly about how he was treated, how journalists reacted, the narrative that was created. No matter what you think of Donald Trump, the way this kid was treated, people threatened to kill him. His parents had to move out of their house. It was just a giant nightmare. So that's Rush to Judgment. Ironically, it's going to premiere at another niche film festival called Anthem, which is going to be in Las Vegas 2 weeks after your film festival.
Fantastic.
And that's going to be the world premiere of Rush to Judgment.
That is fantastic. Good for
Isn't
you.
that crazy?
Congratulations.
Can you still see me? Because I look frozen on my screen. Isn't that weird? I don't know how that happened. I got too animated, I guess, and I froze myself.
Held cell.
You mentioned Fox News and it froze on you. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Covington Cavalry. That's what happened. What a great story, though. What a fantastic.
Yeah, and
film
I was sitting on it,
Wow.
and we did all this investigative work. We found out all this stuff that hasn't been publicized yet. Once again, we didn't get into Sundance. We didn't get into Full Frame. We didn't get into True False, or Tribeca, but we did get into Anthem.
Does
And,
anybody
we'll see.
recognize why they don't get into some of those big shows? Does anybody know why?
I think part of it, I covered Sundance for years. Back in the day when it was film, there were always stories about people getting their films back and they hadn't even broken the seal on the second reel.
Yeah.
I think if you don't know somebody, if you're not from a major studio or somebody that's gone through their labs or something, I think they use it as a way to fund what they do, and they take all these people's entry fee. I think you have a 0.0 chance, maybe 0.1 chance of getting in, So that's why festivals like Amy's and yours and festivals that support indie film like Indie Gathering are so important for the rest of us.
You might also want to look at the fact that a lot of those shows that operate where they'd get, 15, 20, 30, 40,000 submissions in a year, and they're
Right.
charging $100 a submission. You might want to look at the fact that they are limited on their screening time. And so what occurs is, before the festival ever happened, what some of these festivals do is they invite a huge number of films that they know they're going to show. So for instance, one year that I got the information I have is that I was very close to someone who was with them for about 20 years. And one day we were talking about it, and he says, well, listen, here's the deal. They're going to show 130, 140 films this year. But before that their submissions open, they've already pre-invited 120 films to show. So the slots that are available are so few that you really should consider yourself lucky to get in. Now, the other side of it, of throwing away films and not breaking the seals on the reels, or not even watching the films, that's a whole nother thing that I don't like. But that's just the nature of the beast. And so I don't think that festivals like ours are any worse or any less than Sundance. The fact of the matter is, I just think that we give you an opportunity to be seen, where they're just going to take the money and not even respond. And that's why we created No Risk Fee Fest, where you're not sending any money in until the festival has pre-screened your film.
I give you guys credit for that. 1 year we did the math, and when you think about the sheer number of submissions and how long those are, they would have to be watching film 24 hours a day for like 2 years if they
can't do it. No, they
watched
can't.
Yeah.
No, they can't. And that's the problem. See, what we do is a little bit different. We have judges all over the country, and all over. In fact, some of our judges are outside the U.S. and they go into other countries. But what we do is, because we can have online screeners well in advance. There's people out there. There's like 9 people reading scripts right now for this year's show, and there's about 6 people watching movies ad nauseum. And that's just what it is. But you have to watch. You just can't take people's money and then smile. But I heard that Sundance sold this year too, didn't it? Last year for $16 million. Is that correct? Because I thought it was worth a lot more than that, just because of the Sundance Institute getting 40 million in grants every year.
Right.
Grants?
Yeah, Sundance Institute is I believe is the nonprofit side of it, and so that side gets grants. And so we never wanted to do that. We're doing it now, believe it or not. We're doing it, absolutely doing it now with our new charity. that's only been around for 10 years. But we didn't want to do that. But when I saw them getting 20, 30, I think they applied 1 year for 56 million in grants and they got 42 million in grants for 1 year.
Whoa.
Come on now. And you need $100 per submission for 20, 30,000 submissions? Are you kidding with me? You can't, there's a guy named James Roddy, friend of mine. He got a film into Sundance. He said, we were so disappointed because we ended up showing it some schoolroom outside the city.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the theater, it was inside a schoolroom. I don't know if I could take that. Sorry to interrupt. My apologies.
It's okay. Okay, so now I'm going to go to round robin questions, and these are to both Steve and David. Have you been directly affected by or been a caregiver for someone with a mental illness? And
Oh, boy.
Steve, you can go first.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, and I'll probably write a screenplay about it someday. I have spent this entire COVID time kind of holed up with my 93-year-old mom, and the only other person I have seen at all is kind of a friend who's a neighbor he's an Army vet, and he suffers from a myriad of problems with PTSD. A month and a half ago, we were driving to a center because he had to put himself on a 72-hour suicide hold. And it's been really interesting because I was doing a documentary on him and his dog. He trains support dogs. And I had no idea what these poor soldiers and their PTSD is really like when you actually are with somebody on a day-to-day basis, what that's like. And I have huge respect, more than ever before in my life, for anyone who served in the military, and just as importantly, any of their family members who have to help them with everything that goes on every day.
Yeah.
It's been an incredibly intense time in this quarantine, and that's really kind of one of the first times in my life I've been that close to something besides Jim Hall, right? But yeah, so that's been, so I would say stay tuned, because there may be a screenplay or a doc that kind of looks at this subject, because boy, does it need more coverage.
Yeah. And David, same question.
I'll start off with the Oakville Oasis Drawing Bee just this past March 2nd celebrated 10 years of meeting almost every Monday to get together and draw with free coffee. So that's a lot of people in the mental health community, but we have lived experience individuals who really appreciate the time spent in a positive environment on Monday mornings, just getting together, doing drawing and that. So not only do I have an illness, but most of my life I've worked, or the times when I haven't been working, I've been really productive in volunteering and things like that. But I've got like 30 years work experience, maybe 20 years. So I have firsthand experience with mental illness. And then I have experience with more social with people in the community. So I have a lot of strong opinions, and I won't burden you with them all now, but one is recovery. Here in Canada, healthcare is provided by the government. So I can't complain. I don't want to complain. I just see a lot of potential that's not being realized. So here they say self-directed recovery is the policy. Well, nothing is self-directed, because it will be redirected because you have a mental illness, and that is why you are wrong. So, and recovery doesn't exist because there is no cure. But I counter that with an amputee. If someone loses a leg, like amputated, they're not going to grow the leg back. That's not going to happen. But they will probably get around, probably get a job, maybe get a prosthesis. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably have a social life and all that. It's not a death sentence. You know, it's not the end of everything. It doesn't mean that person will live in poverty for the rest of their life. And I see mental illness as being a loss of capability, yes, but there's workarounds. There's so much that can be done. And it's just like, no, if you have a mental illness, I'll meet with you once a week to correct you on whatever I can come up with, you know, if I'm a healthcare worker. Secondly, oh, you have mental illness? Oh, well, here, have some handouts, you know, be happy living in poverty and stuff. So I have a lot of strong opinions, and I try to volunteer and be active, as well as be like, if I have a positive impression on somebody, I want them to know I'm a person with mental illness. You know, when you're first diagnosed, you start going around saying, oh, I'm sorry, but I have a mental illness and I just want to be open and honest. Well, I don't really do that. But if it comes up, I'll say, yes, I have a mental illness and I do this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, some people, like when I was in school for animation, I was given a bag lunch from the hospital every day to attend class for 2 weeks. And the other people that weren't in the hospital, the regular students, I guess you could call them, they were literally doing crazy stuff, climbing up to the mezzanine and stuff like that. So there's a lot of sanity in the mental health community that could be tapped into for the rest of the world. That's kind of goes off the deep end. And that's enough for me to say. So.
I know. No, I'm living proof. It's not a death sentence. It just feels like one at the beginning. If you're really, really sick, it just feels like, I like to say, I lost myself to my diagnosis for the first few years, and it was a long climb back. But like now, I've got awards. I made my passion project through AOF. I got this wonderful platform festival that I could invite artists like you guys to be a part of. So, okay. Next question. How has your mental health impacted your professional career? And
go ahead,
David, I'll let you take that one first.
Who, me?
Yes. If you don't want to answer, it's okay.
No,
this isn't a
no, that's okay. I was 25 when I basically threw up my hands and said, okay, it's got to be me. You know, so it's like 10 years in, 10 years out. But in the 10 years before I was diagnosed, which I've been told is not a legitimate diagnosis. So like, and I had to really fight to get a diagnosis. I had to go through Freedom of Information to find out what it was. So I had accomplishments before I was diagnosed. I had gone to university as a mature student. I had worked. I had done skilled trades. So like I had some accomplishments. As you say, like you kind of, how did you put it, Amy? You were saying like you were a victim of your diagnosis?
Like I lost myself in my diagnosis a little
bit.
You're
defined by your diagnosis.
Yeah,
your identity is your diagnosis.
I had to learn. That was the hardest lesson to learn.
Yeah, like I was working in a popular restaurant kitchen, and it was like, oh, I shouldn't do that. You know, I have a mental illness. Dave, just do it, right? So I'd be cooking on the line. It's like, oh, I got 5 orders or 5 chits. Lindsay, come give me a hand. And by the time he comes in, he says, Dave, you got it all. You know, like there's the whole idea that you're self-monitoring, you're self-judging, like, oh, I have a bad mood now. Oh, I'm too high now. You know, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, you lose yourself to your diagnosis. That was probably 10 years getting out of that mindset.
Okay. Well, Steve, if you'd like to answer the question.
I would just say that I think he said a lot of really great stuff. And I do think it's important for people, no matter what, you know, to never let anything or a label or a diagnosis keep you from doing what you want to do. And, you know, when I was in TV news, I had a news director who told me over and over, I was too sensitive to be a reporter. I should just stick to, being behind the scenes or whatever. And I think I always say, when I talk to kids, you have a choice in life with everything. People are going to make assumptions about you. And if they hear you have a mental illness, or if you have some kind of thing that you're fighting, a disability, are you going to prove them right? That
Yeah.
you're right, I can't do this, I should give up, I don't belong doing this, I don't belong making this film, I don't belong applying for a job? Or are you going to prove them wrong? And I will tell you, through my entire life, have always been pushing to prove people wrong. If I'm the kind of person, if you tell me I can't do something, it makes me want to do it 10 times harder. And I've never said, oh, I guess you're right. Right? So I would say that whether you're a filmmaker, or a victory for you being a bagger at the grocery store because people told you you don't ever belong leaving your house because of your disability, take that victory and prove people wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. Del, do you want to comment on it?
I was raised in the minority community. And so I think that for me, at the time that I was raised and the age that I am, I think a lot of minority mental illnesses are never, ever diagnosed. They're never, ever treated, and they're never even looked at. Because in that community, people are ashamed to say it. On the other hand, I did marry my third ex-wife twice, so I think I might have a problem, but I'm not going to get into that. It's more of a desire thing. That being said, I wish that people in America would really go back and look at what happened in the 1980s under Reagan. He decided to go through and close down all of the mental institutions that were across the United States to bring the budget back into control. The problem was he was the same, and I love Reagan, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that he was the same president that when they asked, why are you taking the vegetables out of kids' lunches? He said, well, isn't ketchup a vegetable? And people laugh about that stuff now and think about it, but the same cavalier, negative, nasty attitude was visited upon our homeless populations and our mentally ill populations. So what occurred was people went from having care, medication, treatment, and outreach to having the streets, the cold, hard, dirty, filthy, cruel streets. And so you've seen mental illness completely increase in the United States over the last 20 years because there's no treatment. So we have no idea who out there really is hurting. You can say, yeah, there's X number of people that are homeless, but that doesn't mean anything. Why are they homeless? Get down to the system. So when I talked to you about what you were doing with your show, I always knew we would do something like this. I never had a doubt after I met you, because you are the perfect advocate for those people. So why would I not say, let's do something like this? We all have to chip in. And so rather than just talk about it, I want to be the guy that says, no, this is what we did for it instead. And I've always been involved in charity. The sad thing is that I'm not more successful, and I don't really have a lot of issues, right? Other than I like pretty women and fat hot dogs. So other than that, I don't have any excuse not to succeed. How can I think it's funny. I don't have any,
it's my mantra as well. So I'm connected.
You gotta have a good Polish sausage. You gotta have a good Polish
Yeah.
sausage. But my position is that, you said earlier that Del makes it rain. I don't want to be the only guy making it rain. I want everybody to say, hang on a second. Did I feed someone today? Did I look to their needs? Did I even speak to them for a moment? And that's how you and I met beautifully. I was sitting upstairs working, and you came down and said, hey, listen, I don't feel so good. I said, honey, tell me what's wrong. What's going on? And I think everybody then and still now ran around you, embraced you, loved you, and said, hey, what are you talking about? And that's the thing. I was talking about you yesterday because someone said that they were pissed because you won Writer of the Year. And they said, well, she's got a mental issue. I said, talking to me this way proves you have a worse one. What is wrong with you? Well, I mean, why would you even say that someone can't have talent because they have a mental condition? That just, that describes half my ex-wives and most of the kids I don't think I have, but probably do, unfortunately. My point is that we all have to do something. And I think we're doing it. So, I'm grateful that there isn't a major condition in my family, but I'm also grateful that we can help and we can reach out to each other. That's how we heal. That's how we get better.
Okay, so to David and Steve, do you plan on attending the Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival?
Who's
I'll go
first?
Go ahead.
Either one. So, Steve, you go first.
Yeah, I will tell you, I was all set to do it. And then we got into Anthem, and that's the world premiere as opposed to year 4 with Lines of Sight. And I just don't, I can only be gone for like 2 days because of my mom who lives with me. So
Right.
I would love to do something virtually with you guys. If we can do a Q&A or something afterwards, I would love to do that. But I'll be literally coming to Vegas like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and I feel terrible about it. But I will be there in spirit. And like I said, if we can do a Q&A, I would love to do that.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Okay, David?
My partner is already planning, even though we got to cross the border, and the border has to be open with COVID and everything.
Yes.
And I haven't talked to my boss yet, but that's a slower time of year, September.
Yeah.
So, or end of August, whenever it turns out, like August, September slows down for us. So, yeah, we're planning on it. We haven't committed, mainly because of the border and the COVID and the flights and everything. But yeah, my partners looked into it, and there's a good chance we'll be there as long as the border's open. And
yeah. I mean, that's something when people people will usually tell me reasons why they can't come, but like answers like the borders are closed.
that's kind of black and white.
It's a little different. That's a little different. Okay.
So I don't know if you know our Prime Minister Trudeau, if he's kind of walking on eggshells with Trump, but I think he would have closed the border sooner if he was sure he wasn't going to offend Trump. So if our government opens the borders, then I think we're good to go, because they're not going to open the borders until they're pretty confident that it's good. So
Okay.
I think it rides on the border being open.
Okay. So I'm good. So this question goes to David. Since you say so, God willing, and the creek don't rise, as we would say down here.
Yeah.
What do you hope to get out of it?
I'm looking for an audience. As I said, there's the secular side and the religious side. I just want to identify an audience that I can direct to. And I sent to a couple film festivals in the last couple of years, and I know you've been talking about AOF MegaFest, and I thought, well, it's big, I don't know if I'll get in that. And now you got Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival. So the doors are opening, and I want to step through them. So I hope that I kind of lost your question there. But
No, you answered it.
I thought it was a good answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
so this question is to Steve and David. What is your purpose as a filmmaker? We'll go with Steve first.
I will say something that I said when I finished my interview with Jim Hall, the first time, that 5-hour interview that I told you about. My purpose is to tell the story and get the hell out of the way, right? It's not about me. I think I've met Michael Moore. I've interviewed him before. Bless his heart. It's not about him, right? It shouldn't be about the filmmaker. It should be about the story and the people and the issue. And that's kind of my mission. Is I just want to tell a good story and get the hell out of the way and let everybody feel like they get to communicate what they're really thinking and feeling. And whether I disagree with them or agree with them, I'm telling their story, right?
Right.
So that's my feeling, is get out of the way.
Okay. And David, same question?
It's the message. Back in 1990, I'm not Jehovah's Witness, Jehovah's Witness, but I studied with them for about 3 months, went to their printing house and stuff, and I decided the stuff I'm trying to express, my comprehension or whatever, needs to be presented through animation. So as a filmmaker, I want to get a message across, and animation is by far the best way I believe I can do it. Just that love and peace and joy and everything is actually possible. I see people getting running ragged, chasing around correctness and all this kind of stuff. So as a filmmaker, I want to challenge people and reassure them and have fun. You know, like, life is a great gift, and people get bogged down in all kinds of negativity or kind of like incorrectness and all that. And no, everybody's forgiven. Accept the grace and let's go. Theology of the body, I'll just quickly say, is something Pope John Paul II proclaimed when he became Pope. He was interrupted when he got shot. Christopher West is making a big deal out of it for the last 20 years. I really think there's a lot, there's a potential, there's a scope, there's an opportunities that people haven't even thought they could imagine, let alone imagine. And so it's the message. Animation is the way to do it. Animation takes the attention, like Steve was saying, animation takes the attention off of me. If I sit there and speak, people think, oh, you know, he's got something good to say, I should hang out with him. No, that's not it. It's like, look at the Bible, look at the life of Christ, look at my animation, and realize how lucky we all are. So,
Okay.
And animation is a film way to do that.
Bill, do you have any last questions for our creator?
I was just going to say to Steve, I think it's a smart move to go to Anthem. They're associated with Freedom Fest and also with other organizations. And I don't know if you did with your first film, but did you sell it or get it up online or anything, or sell it on Amazon or YouTube or anything?
Well, that's a good question. We actually are talking to a distributor, and last year the big film at Anthem was Adam Carolla's No Safe Spaces.
Right.
And we kind of have the same slot that he has. So we're hoping that maybe something will happen. We did sign with an agent for a speaking tour on college campuses.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's
CIA, Contemporary Issues Agency, and they're going to rep us to go around the college campuses. So so hopefully I'll sell the film. We'll see.
Well, look at Linda Nelson at Nelson Madison and Indy Wright's film. She's very good. And we did a film recently. Well, we did it years ago with Joe Pesci called Behind the Gate. And that just got picked up and put on Amazon. I think it was 4 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's sitting on a 9.4, 9.5%, 9-star rating after the first initial month being up. So I think the numbers are coming pretty good. She's done a good job for us. So look to her. She can at least advise you a little bit, because I think what you have is fantastic for what I can say.
Oh, thank you. I will tell you, I'm going to have to email you because I didn't get to write that down, and the names fly in and out of my head.
No. I'll send Amy an email. I'll Facebook her, and she'll send it to you directly. And she'll also get you the waiver in the story.
Or we could just make you watch the recording again tomorrow, maybe.
All right.
And it'll be
hit them right where it hurts. Oh my gosh. Right where it hurts.
Any other words?
No, I hope that everybody will get what they need out of this. We've been in a very tough time. And I think it's been an introspective time where we're actually able to go inside, where we're supposed to be, and to look to ourselves to see what the problems are. And now we can go back out with some real information and some real structure and say, I don't want this, or I want this. And we're going to have to fight, because it's going to be a tough time. Our laws have changed. Our rights have changed. Our privacy have changed. It's time for us to stand up, say something, do something, be something, except for silent. And I hope we'll all do that. And with your work, you're doing that. So I'm so proud of you guys. It's such an amazing opportunity to meet you all. It's just great. Thank you.
You're the one providing the opportunities there, Mr. Weston.
Yeah,
please. I'm just another guy with a nickel in his pocket and a candy bar wrapper in his shoe. Why it's there, I don't know, but it is. So.
And I just want to say, Amy, thank you for kind of the great questions. I know we kind of put these together definitely to feature and talk about accepted submissions and artists that are going to be involved in the Conquering Disabilities with Film Festival, and it's been great for me to be a part of these episodes. So
I loved how she just slammed them with that question. Are you coming?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. Wow.
She goes.
She went right
She
for
always
the
says,
neck
"This
and
isn't-"
cut both the air and the blood, man.
She always says this isn't the Jerry Springer show, and then she goes and does that.
pulls that. Gotcha. She got him.
So we have some trailers to watch too. So
Oh yeah.
we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna show the hypothermia trailer first, and then we'll show Lines of Sight second. David and Steve, thank you guys very much for being on.
Thank you.
Recovery
Thank you
Unplugged
very
Live
much.
tonight.
Appreciate it.
You guys can head out, or you can stay offline for us with a couple minutes while we show the trailers. And for everyone else who is watching on YouTube and Vim and Facebook, thank you so much. Like Amy Unplugged, and check out the website for Conquering Disabilities with Film, or you can also check that out on Facebook.
Yep.
Thank you.
Amy, give the legit website so I don't mess it up.
www.conqueringdisabilitiesfilmfest.com.
All right. Del, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you
Always
all.
a pleasure.
Have a great evening. And Amy, I'll see you
Thanks,
tomorrow.
guys.
And thanks to all you guys. What a
I'll
pleasure.
see you tomorrow,
Thank you
Del.
very much.
All right. All the best.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Down, 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 the sun goes down, the night comes down, down, lay down, side by side, lay down, comes down. Cycling on the highway, turn up to the side.
Jim J.C. Hall has been painting for more than 70 years.
I got shingles, which for me was the most terrible pain I have ever experienced. Everything was in lines, and that scared me. As I saw the lines, I became much more interested in them as an artist, and I began trying to paint them. And that led me to discover a new art form. I call it linealism.
It makes you think that it's three-dimensional, like it's just gonna jump out at you.